Max, the one to watch for the best in entertainment, now has live sports with the Bleacher Report sports add-on.
5, 4, 3, 2, I let one go.
Stream hundreds of select live games from MLB.
That's gonna go!
NBA, NHL, U.S. Soccer, and NCAA Men's March Madness.
We just see what we think we just saw!
And it's all included for a limited time with any Max subscription.
He got him!
After the promo period, add it for $9.99 a month. Base subscription required.
Apple Card is the credit card created by Apple. You earn 3% daily cash back up front when you use it to buy a new iPhone 15, AirPods, or any products at Apple. And you can automatically grow your daily cash at 4.15% annual percentage yield when you open a high-yield savings account. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings accounts by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Some things are just better together, like party playlists and Friday nights, campfires and ghost stories, peanut butter and chocolate. And Reese's Cups are the perfect combination of creamy peanut butter and delicious milk chocolate. So, when you want something sweet, you can't do better than Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Buy Reese's today wherever candy is sold.
I'd like to hope qualifying is going to be all right, but we shall see. The question is whether or not the team is all right. And the England game really threw up a lot more concerns than reassurances, I would say. And the one bright note in the team, probably through these two games in qualifying, Retegui, who scored in both games, has been a big source of conversation. Producer Simon, just before we started, was expressing some of his reservations about someone jumping in like that, asking whether or not it shouldn't have gone to Scamacca and wouldn't he have scored those goals anyway. Mina, snap thoughts. Retegui in the Italy team, how do you feel about it in the big picture and after seeing him in these two games?
I really like Retegui. Full disclosure, I'm not a big fan of any of our strikers, including Scamacca. When he was being linked with the Premier League, I was like, yeah, I can't imagine this being a huge success. I really love that Scamacca and his journey, and I thought he did a terrific job at Sassuolo, but I just don't think he's a player of the highest caliber to represent the national team. That's not for me to say that Retegui is. But I do sort of see the urgency in needing to look elsewhere and needing to try to find solutions when you sort of don't have a really great number 9. And right now you don't have the players of Zaniolo and Chiesa involved with the national team for various different reasons. It's kind of like, all right, we have a problem in attack. Let's go and look everywhere. So on that, sort of in that way, I understand him coming on, and I think he's done a terrific job. Clearly 2 goals in 2 games. Where I would agree that I don't think it's fair is that you've got players who are born in Italy, raised in Italy, understand the Italian way of playing football, and have to wait up to a certain age before they get an Italian passport and can represent the team. Whereas a player like Retegui, who has, a great grandfather who was born in Sicily, can get the Italian passport and represent the national team, even though he hasn't been trained in the Italian football ways or has grown up doing that. So, and he's an Argentine in every other aspect, let's say, other than a passport. So for me, I think there's a double standard there that I don't like. And when we are being compared to nations like Switzerland, that's what Mancini was talking about a lot. What they don't understand is that a lot of those are naturalized players. Those players that have come to the country have been raised as Swiss or raised as Belgians or, those different countries and given the passport so that they can represent the national team, whereas Italy don't do that. And I think that's where I don't want to be looking around to, different corners of the world trying to find somebody who has a bloodline that's Italian. You're Italian when you're born in Italy and lived as an Italian, even if your origins are not from that. That's where I guess it's a political point of view.
See, I feel like completely on the other side of this in the big picture.
Yeah.
Because I'm someone who has an Italian dad and who grew up in England. And I always felt a very strong connection to Italy. I always felt like it was a place that I connected to. And I always supported Italy from very young. And I always felt like if that ridiculous question had ever come up, which it didn't, of like, which country would you represent? I would have chosen Italy over England. So I have no problem with someone being born outside of the country. I have no problem with someone relying on their sort of lineage, I guess, like their family. of course, like on an emotional level, I want them to connect to Italy. That's what bothers me personally. Does Retegui connect to Italy? And that's a question that I can't answer because I haven't sat down with Retegui yet. I haven't spoken to him. I don't know how he feels about it. I would prefer that position not to be going to someone who's just cynically using it, who thinks it's an opportunity to get some exposure, to put myself in a market position, which you could reasonably do, right? Like if he's seeking a move to Europe, this has done him some favors. Like he's now scored some goals in Europe in front of people. But I don't know that he doesn't feel strongly attached to his Italian side. And just because it's only through a grandparent, that's the rules. It's the rules for every country. I have zero problem with that part of it. I think Simon did raise a point before he came on that I agree with more, which is, you know, once Mancini wanted to get Retegui in his team, there was a snap of fingers and this guy had citizenship the next second. Now, citizenship he's entitled to it through his grandparent. That's not an obstacle that was ever going to be, even if he didn't play for Italy, that's something he's entitled to. But what pisses you off a bit, if you'd excuse me from saying it, is Mario Balotelli, who was born in Italy and grew up in Italy, wasn't granted citizenship until he was 18 years old. That's disgraceful.
That's the point that I was saying, in the sense of you can be raised there. You don't necessarily have to be of Italian origin, but I still think that you should be given that same sort of benefit of the doubt as you would to somebody who's moved and emigrated abroad.
But I think I'm arguing the same point from the opposite side. I think Balotelli should have got his citizenship much sooner.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I have no problem with Retegui getting it. I just think Balotelli's thing should never have been a case.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So I think there's hypocrisy in the system that's awful. Do I have a problem with Retegui playing for the national team? No. You know, Mauro Camoranesi was an Oriundo. We were used to Oriundi. They're nothing new. And I'm not saying that everyone's story is exactly the same, but that part doesn't bother me. And look, in the footballing sense, I also have no problem with not starting Scamacca. Scamacca's been struggling. I think Mancini has given all of his attackers more than a fair crack of the whip. And in the strictly footballing sense, taking aside any other part of it, I think he's entitled to call up any new idea he can think of, because the attack's been, using all the wrong words today, but the attack's been crap, Mina.
Yeah, it really has been. I really have no qualms or any negative thoughts towards the fact that Retegui is playing for us. I'm actually really thrilled by it, because I was like, oh, look, this guy looks like he's pretty good. You know, I'm happy to have him on board. But I'm also somebody who really believes that you need to connect with your country to do well on that in football. And one of the reasons why, I really enjoyed watching countries like Morocco succeed in the World Cup is because you felt like there was a really strong bond with their country, like the representation of their country, their representation of their culture. And that's what I love about Italians, is like the way they sing the anthem, right? It's like with so much desire and for so much love for their country, like playing for Juventus or playing for the best team in the world, whether it be Milan winning a Champions League or Juventus or Inter or whatever it is. At the end of the day, playing for the national team means 10 times more. And I don't know if that's necessarily the way for teams like, for example, England, where there's always been a lot of question marks with how much they connect with the national team, because the Premier League is so good and it's not the end all and be all of life, but I do feel it's the end all and be all of Italian life. So I do really think it's important for some countries where their players do connect thoroughly with that idea of representing the national team, of being there and doing it sort of the Italian way, rather than, which is again why I hate us particularly copying different styles of football. I much prefer Italians sticking to Italians and not trying to do tiki-taka of Spain, or trying to, I don't know, dribble like the Brazilians or whatever it is. It's the Italian school of thought. Just improve on that. Find different ideas, be inspired. But the Italian school of thought is and calcio is, for me, like irreplaceable. I mean, it's so brilliant. Like, you've won four World Cups. Why on earth are you looking around? Just improve upon your ideas. And so on that level, I think that if you are somebody, to be honest with you, we can include Retegui, and we can include any African who has been born and raised as an Italian. As long as you feel Italian and you feel a connection to football, then I don't think there should be a difference between those two. But I would really like the fact if we could just find a few more attackers. I don't care where they come from at this point. Hand out passports at immigration if we have to. But it is getting really diabolical with how bad this attack is.
Yeah, just to finish that thought on Retegui, I do think part of what a lot of people are struggling with, and which I understand, is like the fact that this is like his first call up and it's straight into competitive games that matter, right? Because like, look at Jorginho. Jorginho was born in Brazil, grew up in Brazil, but he'd played in Italy for a number of years. So at least you sort of felt there was that sort of connection to Italy. And I think that made it easier for people to just be like, okay, yeah. Whereas I think maybe if Retegui had been called up for some friendlies, started on the bench, got some time getting used to everyone, felt more like part of the family, it would feel different to how this feels to a lot of people, which is, hang on, he's literally just showed up and there he is. And he's literally the only one scoring goals. two goals in 2 games. Just to say it, only 3 players I think ever have scored in both their first 2 games for Italy before this, which is Giorgio Chinaglia, Enrico Chiesa and Riccardo Orsolini. So pretty bonkers stuff actually in sort of purely historical terms. So he's come in straight away and scored those 2 goals. Meanwhile, since the Euros, I don't think that either of Immobile or Belotti has scored a single goal for Italy. So that's how desperate the situation is up front. There's got to be someone who can put the ball in the net. Obviously, if you had a healthy Raspadori, you might look at something different. I've seen some people asking just the question of tactically, is this necessarily the type of striker Italy need? Would you be better off with a false 9 type player? I'm open to all of that. I'm open to Raspadori being the one who plays through the middle going forward. But for these 2 games, I do think Mancini has a lot of justifiable complaints. And, when it comes to what his pool of talent available to him is, I think that's certainly justifiable. He's playing without much of a deck, certainly in certain positions up front. But whether he could be getting more out of the rest of the team is also a valid question. Hey gang, just wanted to let you know that you can now get a free 14-day trial of our Chronicles Tifosi Patreon membership.
Subscribe now for free for 14 days to get access to all of our full episodes, solo minisodes, bonus content, even behind the scene bonuses like our chats about football, and of course our chats about life in general. You can also get the entire back catalogue of Serie A Chronicles content.
So head over to serieachronicles.com/Patreon and subscribe to the Chronicles Tifosi membership for free.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.